Welcome to 20 Minutes of Clarity. I'm your host, Jason Noble, and with me today is our co-host, Andy Merchant. Andy, take us away, buddy.
Hey, Jason, I know I love our 20 minutes together and always coming up with our insightful conversation. And now we get the luxury and continual weekly conversations to incorporate our great our listeners and those that are interested in wealth decision making. You know, lately with market volatility and everything else is out there, man, I have just been getting a lot of questions around preparing for retirement, the components and the features and the complexity that goes on, right? I mean, and our industry is very good at throwing out jargon around withdrawal rates and early savings, and I think it was a cool topic that you and I to discuss today on this because it kind of you know resonates with everybody depending on which client experience you go into, whether you're accumulating assets, you're preparing or in retirement, or even if you're one of those clients that just has amassed so much wealth that you need to have maybe a different approach of retirement, and those kind of things. So I'm excited to talk to you a little bit today about the common conversations that you're having.
Yeah. Well, I'll say, Andy, there's something that I've really picked up since we've been talking on a regular basis. It's about 90% of the advisors out there do about the same thing. What makes you and I different and being in the other 10% is that we could be able to help someone that has 500,000 to 500 million. It's very interesting that we both have that ability and skill set. But but there's a commonality. There's common questions that I'm seeing, and
Mm.
I think it would be good for us to kind of kick those things off when it comes to retirement. Like one of the reasons that people come to you and I is they saved their whole life, and they did what they were supposed to do, right? They did
Yep.
what they were told to do. They learned that from like their coworkers or their spouses or even their parents, but they put very little to no thought into how they're going to transition that money into income streams throughout retirement to offset like healthcare costs or even inflation and even taxes that come into play. So let's kick off with that. Like, what are the things that you would want to share with us about how you work with your clients or and, what people should be considering about turning their assets into income streams?
Yeah, and I think it's a good point. I think, the first thing and the thing that resonates the most that I tell clients all the time, Jason, is, you know, don't wait until you're retiring to start your retirement transition and income strategy. Too often in my past, I've had clients, I'm sure you've had, right, that have come into your office and say, I'm ready to retire, and say, great, when are you doing this? I quit my job yesterday, right? Because then at that point, the planning's out the window and it's really just about showing clients how to do things. So I think the main key is that, we're always preparing for retirement. We're always developing an income stream as you and I built in the Clear Picture analysis in our overall wealth program. It's about finding that retirement independence. But the main thing is let's understand the benefits that you are projected to get. Social Security is going to be a question mark out there. It's always going to be a moving target. So, is it a reliance? I don't know. I mean, are you building in plans right now for people to rely on Social Security at the full number, or what are you incorporating into to strategies beyond just the withdrawal rate of assets saved?
Well, like, okay, I do look at what are the reliable sources, right? And that could be Social Security, obviously, but then do they have real estate portfolios where they have reliable reoccurring income coming in? Or do they have other types of strategies? There's so many things out there that could provide that reliable reoccurring income. Even if it's for like 5 years or 15 years, right? Like we could build that into the analysis and then look at what we need to take off from the portfolios as well.
Which
But
is
then
so
also
important
looking
right
at the
now.
tax drag. Oh, it's so important, especially like if you have multiple income sources, you may not need to pull out much of anything from your investment accounts, which will allow you to let that money continue to navigate through this economy and market that we're in.
Yeah.
There's a ratio. I don't want to get too geeky, but it's called portfolio reliance ratio. And when a person has a high ratio, like an 80%, excuse me, ratio, when the markets are volatile, they get very worried, a lot of anxiety, a lot of concern. And it makes sense because 80% of their
Yeah.
expenses are reliant on the portfolio. But if
Well, I
someone
think
has
that's
a
an important.
10%, Well,
Yeah,
let's
I
talk
think that's
about it.
an
Yeah.
yeah, I think because I think for a lot of people when you say portfolio reliance, again, I think jargon's important in our industry. You and I kind of get excited about it because we see it, we understand the benefit, but the everyday client may not understand it. And I think that we just need to go into a very simple scenario of what it means for portfolio reliance because I think that backs into, maybe the non-traditional way of approaching planning for retirement is build that secure income so that you don't have to rely on your portfolio. So why don't you elaborate just a little bit on portfolio reliance as like a tell me like I'm a second grader.
Okay, you need $100,000 to live per year in retirement. That's what it looks like for you to meet your essential and discretionary goals, right? The money you need to have and the money that you want to have, right, for spending.
Yeah.
If I need to send out $80,000 per year from your investment account, we need to make sure you have a big account, right? Because the 80,000 a year coming in off the account, that's a high portfolio reliance ratio. You're relying on 80% of your expenses to come from the investments.
Mm,
So if you don't have a whole lot of money and you have that much coming in off the portfolio, any market drop, 10, 15%, next thing you know, you're feeling anxiety. It's like, explain this to a second grade. It's like somebody ate your lunch, right? And you're not too happy about it. They traded you, but they didn't give you any cookies back, right?
yeah.
But okay, now if you let's say you're spending 100,000 and 10,000 is coming off your portfolio and the market is moving around, you have, and studies show you don't get as emotional. You don't get as anxious. You don't get
Hmm.
as concerned because it's representing 10% of that 100,000, and the other 90,000 is coming in from, let's say, Social Security, right? And then other income sources, whatever they may be, as long as they're reliable income sources that are paying out money on a consistent basis, we can
Yeah.
factor that in and make sure it's part of your retirement income strategy.
Yeah, I think you said it great. I mean, I think, you and I, you kind of really reintroduced me to the concept of portfolio reliance, and it's become such a foundation of my client conversations, and especially the development of their retirement income because, 2022 really kind of showed us that, because I always tell clients too, you got to think about it. Traditional retirement planning has been get a great job, put it into your employee benefit, get the match, stash it away, store it for a little bit longer, pick a day when you're ready to retire, and then at those points in time, start turning on these Social Security benefits, which we all know, right, is a tough kind of a tough decision making because if you retire early, do you take it and penalize yourself? How do you incorporate those strategies? But the reality is that if you save a bunch of money in a traditional 401k plan and maybe start your benefits plan, your Social Security and other factors early, um, then you got to factor in taxes. That just starts to really compound the portfolio reliance ratio, and that makes it very difficult, especially in down markets. So I think it's
Yeah,
extremely
you
important.
got tax drag that's an ugly monster under the bed, and then you have inflationary risk, which is another ugly monster, but that one's in the closet, right? And then you have the third ugly monster under the bed on this. So I'm gonna put this one back under the bed, which would be healthcare costs.
Yeah.
And if you're not factoring in your retirement plan how to offset these ugly monsters that are, hiding, they will come and get you
Yeah.
if you don't have it factored in, if you don't have a plan in place and well in advance, and I just talked about this on my radio show. So like, 7 to 10 years out, that's when you start building out what transitioning and looking at income streams into going into retirement. And then as you get closer, that 3 to 7 years out, then you're looking at offsetting market volatility right before you get into retirement. And I think that's a good transition. You don't want to be betrayed by the market early on in retirement or right before you retire. It could really derail a financial plan. How do you help like clients navigate like not being betrayed by the market right before they get into retirement or as they start retirement?
Well, yeah, that's the big question, right? And the big strategy is, A lot of it is we've talked in the Clear Picture program and everything else we do is it's about putting you as the client or the individual in control. And if you made the decision that, hey, you're excited, you woke up in January of 2022 and said, let's go, I'm ready to retire, I'm ready to embark on this transitional journey, and then now the market starts falling, you have experienced a 20% drop in your portfolio while you're taking money out. That could be an emotional roller coaster for people. So a lot of times, things that I've done is, when we sit down and we start developing plans, we develop contingency strategies and considerations. For example, again, these aren't designed to go into weeds. We hope that people call us on these insights, but um, part of it is, uh, for example, if you've got a big portfolio, it's a non-retirement account or a home, and you have equity in your home, you could have added in home equity lines of credits. I
Hmm.
have clients that we put on home equity lines of credits right before they retired. It's part of the planning process. Because here's the thing: banks don't give you money when you retire because you don't have money anymore. So before you retire, set up a home equity line of credit. Why would you do that? Well, take 2022, markets are down. I would have had to pull money out of a 401k, pay taxes on the money, and have it out of the working. Instead, we had low borrowing rates that we were able to utilize short term, allowing the markets to recover, which they've done, right, in our current scenario. And then now we're able to strategically, tax efficiently repay that loan. So
So
that's one strategy.
one thing I appreciate that you just shared is that you look at the entire balance sheet to
Yeah.
determine, you know, setting up the strategies and the investments coupled with the entire retirement income plan to be able to do what you just said. How many advisors out there do you think, and I don't have any data here, Andy, but like just
That's a
focus on the
first.
investments, right? Yeah, right. Because I like data, it helps me with make an informed decision. But like, what percentage of advisors out there that are, would you say that just focus on the investments and not looking at the entire balance sheet to come with the comprehensive approach?
I think it's overwhelming. I think I don't have the data either, and you and I are both data guys, but not to pick too hard on our industry overall, but it's easier, right? I mean, I'm in the process right now of writing a paper around, the obstacles of leading with wealth planning. And one of those components is that it's a lot of work by the advisor to have knowledge, understanding, consideration, relationships, and all these things. But then it's a lot of things that a client may just not fully understand. And so it's much easier to still help a client get to their goal of retirement, and probably through retirement just fine by just focusing on investments, balancing the portfolio, reducing risk, which we know in 2022 that the traditional portfolio diversification strategy that we would have normally have used for retirement planning would not have worked. And many of those are probably feeling that right now. So the reality is that there's not enough that are probably focusing on that. But I think at the same time, clients have to have an open mindset to the information they're giving. I know you and I talk a lot. I mean, incorporating annuities into stories, right? That's a completely different environment, but people have still a bad taste in their mouths from how annuities were 10 years ago. Mom and dad old annuities or grandpa and grandpa's annuities are not the same anymore, but they do provide that volatility for clients to do. So I think more advisors need to push their clients a little bit. um, I think more and more clients need to be more open-minded to having that holistic conversation, so that the home equity line of credit. I can't tell you. I know I'm rambling, but I can't tell you enough how many times I say, "Hey, we're going to put a home equity line of credit on your house," and they're like, "Why?" I'm like, "In case we need it." Well, I don't want to have additional debt in retirement. I'm like, "Well, your house is a giant piggy bank. You just can't touch it." Yes, we don't want to over leverage it. We don't like the drag that we feel, but at the same time, it provided a great solution for clients that otherwise would have taken out a significant amount of money in the market and moved on. So um,
Yeah, I mean,
that's
well, look at the economy and it changing right rapidly. But like just a few years ago, I had clients that were having mortgages at 2.5%. And I'm like, why would you ever pay that off early?
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And the chances of those clients that are nearing or in retirement, um, like staying in the home all the way through retirement is slim.
yeah.
It's slim if you look at the statistics, right? So why throw all that extra money towards it where only way you can get that money back out is by selling it or taking out a loan in some way or shape or fashion, whether a home equity line
You
or
know,
whatever the case may be. So these are all the things that come into play, and I think it's so important. Another thing that I would say that comes into play, and I'm going to kick this over to you as well, and I'm going to share my insights, is when I'm meeting with people who are interviewing me to see if we're a good fit, right, for each other, right? We want to make sure that our core values align and the approach that we take aligns with their expectations. One thing that I keep on running across is they have a good part of their net worth in these 401ks and
yeah,
403bs, 457s, but their current advisor is not doing anything with them, like not giving any guidance on it. And I do know that in 2021 they came out with the Security Exchange Commission came out with prohibitive transaction saying like unless you're managing the money directly, you can't give advice on 401ks or held away accounts, right? But
yeah.
like, why I want to have you like that law that came out, why do you think so many advisors turn their back to their clients on this instead of turning into the law and seeing how they could start working with their clients and not neglect these 401ks that are sitting there that have a good portion of their overall net worth? I'll have you speak to that.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it's the path of least resistance, and most advisors are comfortable with what they've got under management, and that's why we're different. It goes back to your 10% rule. So, again, not speaking to why advisors that I don't know who didn't do what. I think the cool thing is focusing really our conversation around, what we're doing around that.
Mm,
I mean, they've came out with some new options. I agree. I wish I had the stats. I was looking for them. But if you think about it, I mean, going just through my client relationships, most of the money that we have the opportunity to manage, or most of clients' retirement net worth, is in 401ks. Now, while they're working, right, which are usually have less impact of management and things like that. So I know you've got a great partnership, and I think some of this, I think, as far as maybe the time of the call we have left is, talk about how we're able to utilize a great new technology and program and benefit the law that you referred to or the changes in it to now actually help clients manage one of their biggest assets that aren't under our direct, strategy management.
yeah, so there's a partner, a great business partner we work with where we're able to actually log in and link inside of the 401k or 403b, most accounts. I only have come across maybe one account that I have not been able to link into. But what we're able to do is keep the money in the 401k. And if that's
Hmm.
the best place to keep it, that's where we keep it. But I'm able to see all their investment choices, and not only all their investment choices, but I get full transparency into those investment choices. Like for instance, like most people are familiar with mutual funds, but there's also CITs that are
Hmm.
inside these 401ks that you can't get a lot of transparency unless you're directly logged in and seeing it.
Hmm.
So the CIT, that had expense ratio of 0.01% versus buying the mutual fund that had 66 basis points on the expense ratio, or just over 0.5% for those that are
Yeah.
listening. What I'm getting at is that's more money in my client's pocket by going into the CIT that had a very good a very good strategy for what I was looking for that portion of the account. But then what I was able to do is actually, this was a large company investment, large cap. I was able to lower the large cap in their IRAs because I was able to get more into the 401k at a lower price point. So I was able to do what's referred to as the industry's asset location. But I'm connecting the 401k to the IRAs, to the
Yep.
brokerage accounts, the trust accounts. It's all connected, working for a common goal, which is something I was able to do with this partnership. But what was frustrating when the rule first came out is there was 2 months where I couldn't give any guidance on 401ks. So I was very appreciative of our company, Andy, of
Yeah.
working hard to get this partnership established. So it wasn't 2 years later. It was 2 months, and we were able to get right back into the work that we've been doing for our clients before the new regulation came out.
Well,
So I
and
think
that
that's so
adds.
important. Go ahead,
Yeah, well, I
by
think
all
I
means.
think adding it as we land here as well, how many times have we sat in a client meeting and talked about, hey, we probably need to rebalance the allocation in your portfolio, and we were reliant on the client had to go back, log in, and make the proactive effort, which what 7 out of 10 times it actually got done. right? And so then they come to review and they're like, why is my whole holistic portfolio down? It's like, well, we didn't change this, so the plan got a little out of whack. And so this platform allows us now to go in, right, and manage and implement so that their plan, connect it to what you mentioned earlier, their holistic plan. We can now utilize their 401k if they're early in retirement to generate some growth, right? Be the growth engine because you're putting money into it. Take their outside accounts, IRAs, possibly buy some of those downside protection, future incomes. We have so much control of the client's total portfolio now with this solution. And I am so excited that we have it. And I'm really excited to get my clients, and I know you have a lot of your clients engaged with us. So I really hope that those listening today that have large 401ks or a 401k at all and say, can I get some more professional management? And the cost is so minimal for the return potential. I mean, I'm excited for it. So that's my final comments on retirement planning for the day.
Andy, I always appreciate our conversations. For everyone listening, that was Andy Merchant.
And that's Jason Noble.
Have a great day.
All right. See you later.